We're making sure that we're not obligated to the inmate, that we're not dependent on the inmate. But that's why we're put in this position. We have to be better than them. Because if we don't respect ourselves, we can't expect the public to. How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tear Talk, and I want to discuss briefly this article I read that comes out of Minnesota. It talks about the lockdown at Stillwater Correctional Facility. It's a lockdown that occurred because an officer was killed by an inmate. The hero's name was Joseph Gom. And now we have a former inmate coming out of the woodwork saying that this lockdown's been over 3 weeks and now it's inhumane. When we come back from our sponsors, I'm going to talk about why I believe this lockdown is still needed. It's not that it's inhumane. It's needed because it shows that we're in control, and that sense of control has to be reestablished. And I'll explain more when we come back from our sponsors. But guys, if you haven't, the show Tear Talks for you brave men and women that work that front line. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. I stand by for our sponsors.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Being a corrections officer takes its toll on even the strongest individuals. The constant need to perform at the highest level, putting your life at risk in a hostile environment, and the mental scarring of traumatic experiences. 31% of corrections officers show symptoms of PTSD, and 66% of people with PTSD also suffer with a substance abuse problem. The Transformations First Responders program is specially designed to help veterans and officers heal from the grips of addiction and PTSD in a comfortable, supportive, and serene setting. You are not alone. If you have questions about the services we offer, give us a call at 866-762-8454 to get more information on this affordable and life-changing program.
Thank you guys for listening to our sponsors. I'm going to keep this quick. The reason why we have lockdowns, we've discussed this before, is one is for make sure we got the threat, identify what that threat is. Another reason is for that underground tension that could happen, especially when an officer was taken, someone that's loved, a family member. You know, we have to make sure there's no underground tension, that the staff members who may have some sense of animosity, well, they have someone to speak to so they can lift that animosity, so they don't generalize the animosity to inmates who weren't involved. But there's also another reason why we have that lockdown, and it deals with mental health and well-being. Besides letting the inmates know who's in control, because we know that's why the lockdown has to happen. Inmates have to be reminded when something like this happens, we're in control. We have control. Because that's a moment where we as staff are going to feel very vulnerable, and the inmates are going to feel like they have a sense of power, and we have to shut that down immediately. But just like I said, on the other side of the coin is the fact that staff has to be reminded of that sense of control because they're feeling vulnerable right now. Someone they loved, their family member, was taken from them. So now they're feeling vulnerable. So the lockdown is there to also remind staff, you have control. We're going to protect you. We want you to be effective. So we got to have your back. And the last thing staff needs right now is a former inmate from the outside telling the public to lift something because now the control is no longer in staff's hands. The control is on the outside. So how is staff going to be effective on the inside? This is a slow process because it's a healing process. Staff went through something I couldn't even imagine. And now they have to rebuild. They have to find themselves able to do this job because one thing is they lost someone that they love and they admired. They lost a family member. But the other thing is it could have been them. So we have to make sure that they're okay. And this is the moment to tell them that we have their back. The lockdown is needed for the mental health of the staff members who went through that loss. Right now they feel vulnerable and they need to be reminded that you guys have the keys. You guys control the doors, not the inmates. We got to make sure that the control goes back to staff because they're going to need it to be effective. And the last thing they need is someone from the outside making changes that's going to affect them on the inside. That's only going to make it worse, and it's going to dishearten them. And we don't want that. So before we jump, especially with that report at the very beginning, oh, this is a bit of a conflict. It's not a conflict. There's no conflict here. An officer was killed. We have to rebuild from that, and it takes time. Inmates have to be reminded of the sense of control that staff has to have to maintain safety and security for everyone, but most importantly, staff has to be reminded that they still have that sense of control. We have to find that way to lift that vulnerability that they're all feeling right now, because again, they lost someone they loved, and it could have happened to them. As always, the show is Tear Talk. Please, if you haven't, subscribe, interact, engage, comment, and guys, as always, stay safe.
Whoa.